Elephants are some of the most incredible animals alive today. Their large size, high intelligence, and strange anatomy make them fascinating animals to study. Ele- They are also members of a long line of placental mammals known as Proboscideans, which have origins stretching back 60 million years ago into the mid Paleocene. This video, I will be looking into a couple of members of Elephantidae. The elephantids are the only living order of Proboscideans. This video, the first member of this entire family to evolve, and the first member we will talk about today, is the genus Primelephus. Primelephus lived around 10 million years ago in the late Miocene epoch in the modern countries of Chad, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Uganda. Being the first member of its family, Primelephus was obviously very basal in appearance, having a different sized body and different shaped tusks. However, it was on the right pathway to becoming modern Proboscideans. Stegotetrabalodon is another genus in this family, living in Afro-Arabia around 8 million years ago. Unlike Primelephus, it had 4 tusks, with the bottom 2 being much longer proportionally than many other earlier Proboscideans not related to it. Stegotetrabalodon spread much further north than Primelephus, with one species living in the United Arab Emirates and another living in Libya. Neither country has modern Proboscideans today. So we've glimpsed some of the earlier genre of Pliocene elephants. But now let's look at the 4 biggest families, or genre in this case. The first one of these more derived taxa is the genus Loxodonta, or the African elephants. The first of the 2 extant members of this entire genus, Loxodonta africana, is commonly known as the African bush elephant. The first males of this species average around 6 metric tons, being able to weigh up to 10.4 tons, while females are usually a bit smaller, around 3 tons. This size means that adults of this species have no natural predators, aside from humans, so they're not really natural. The African forest elephant, Loxodonta cyclosus, is the smaller of the 2 species, with the larger specimens maxing out at around 6 tons. African forest elephants have been separated from African bush elephants for around 500,000 years. This was caused by the onset of the Congo Basin scene expansion, leading to the isolation of the African forest elephants from the African bush elephants. Throughout the Pliocene and into the Pleistocene, there were also a couple of extinct species, such as Loxodonta atlantica and Loxodonta cucae. However, for the most part, this genus never actually left Africa, unlike the next 3 genera I'll discuss. The first of these genera is in the genus Elephas. This genus contains just one living species, the Asian elephant. This species is the largest animal in Asia, weighing up to 7,000 kilograms, and it can be found all over Southeast Asia, including the Indonesian islands, along with one species that made it onto the Philippines. There are also 3 recognized and 1 possible subspecies of Elephas maximus, including the Sri Lankan, Indian, and Sumatran elephants. However, despite Elephas's only living species or representative being in Asia, the genus is actually believed to have originated in Africa, specifically Kenya. Specifically, the species Elephas ecorensis is the one known from Kenya, dating to the early Pliocene around 5 million years ago, meaning it was likely the ancestor of all later species in this genus. The specific ancestor of modern Asian elephants was Elephas hysadricus, which lived around 500,000 to 100,000 years ago across the Indian subcontinent. The final 2 genera I will discuss quickly here are both extinct: Mammothus, or the mammoths, and Paleoloxodon, or the straight-tusked elephants. I pretty much already have a full-length video discussing both of these animals in some detail, so I'm only going to go into a little bit here, starting off with the mammoths. The pygmy mammoth, or the Channel Island mammoth, scientifically known as Mammuthus exilius, lived on the Channel Islands just off the coast of California, appearing 80,000 years ago and going extinct around 13,000 years ago. This mammoth had a maximum shoulder height of around 6 feet 8 inches or 203 centimeters. with the maximum weight of around 1,350 kilograms or 2,980 pounds. The reason these animals are less than half the size of the African forest or Asian elephants is because of island dwarfism, which I've already discussed a fair few times on the channel. But to very quickly put things, on an island with very few resources, including food and fresh water, animals tend to shrink in size so they can adapt to their environment, which causes speciation and smaller body size. Moving from mammoths to Paleoloxodon, the one species I'm going to talk about for this video is Paleoloxodon huaihuensis, which lived in China. Descended from the European Paleoloxodon antiquus, this Chinese species of Paleoloxodon first appeared around 700,000 years ago in northern China. This species would have closely resembled the Indian Paleoloxodon pneumaticus, which I've already discussed so many times, and the two would have been around the same size as well. Rather interestingly, this species sample size is pretty biased towards older individuals, of between 33 and 34 and a half years, according to some recent research, which I just find interesting, and I've linked it below. Now, that is a pretty brief summary into elephantid evolution. And in the past of all these species, there was a lot of interbreeding. And a lot of species have, in recent years, gone in and out of certain taxonomical rankings and clades. So this is a pretty simplified version of elephantids. Unfortunately, it is also important to recognise that all elephantids are at least endangered and nowhere near as widespread as what they once were, with the population of African, bush and forest elephants having gone down more than 90% since 1500. And the Asian elephants' range has decreased by a similar amount as well. Unfortunately, the African bush and forest elephants are both hunted for ivory, and the Asian and African forest elephants are both in danger from deforestation as their habitat is cleared every single year. If we do not stop the decline of the remaining Proboscideans, like literally right now, they will likely go completely extinct in the wild in less than a decade at best. If we lose these incredible organisms, a 60 million year old line of animals will go completely extinct, and the planet will feel a lot emptier without them.